everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Minimal Viable Launch. We have Johann here with us today, who's going to be sharing a ton about his experiences building one of the most community-driven, client-focused products that I know of in the market today. He's doing some really interesting things in the terms of getting his roadmap completely aligned with his users' needs. Johann has been running a successful accounting practice for 4 years now called On Point Accounting. They are really good. They do all of my accounts, I'm happy to say. And he has been running and building in the trenches, hacking away and creating a product with his co-founding team called Client Engager, which I believe, Johann, it's coming up to 3 years now since you've launched this. Tell me a little bit about Client Engager and why you went on this insane journey in the first place of building a product.
So Client Engager kind of went to the public nearly 3 years ago now. It is a practice management tool targeting accountants and bookkeepers in that industry. Certainly by no means are we the first to do this in our industry, but there's a life cycle of businesses and tech startups, and a opportunity arose, shall we say. So my fellow co-founder, Andy, decided he would have a practice management tool built for him and his firm. I have spent 7 years trying to find a good practice management tool for my practice by this point, and I've been around the block a few times and tested quite a lot of them, and not really fallen in love with any of them. Like, some of them had great bits, but then it couldn't do what another one did, and all of that usual stuff. And then one summer at a QuickBooks event that Andy was at and I was at, Andy collared me, having been nagging me for months to come and look at this software of his. I'm sat there going, I need another beer before we do this, because this is just another crackpot accountant who thinks he can be a developer, and he's going to have a really terrible system. So anyway, he brought another beer, and I let him put a meeting in my diary.
It's only fair. You've got to get paid for this. These live product demos, right?
So he showed me this product, and I mean, it was early days, but actually it was a really good product. His focus was on completely the wrong features compared to what the market would be interested in, but he had built a good product. So he asked me if I'd come on board initially just to help him build out a pricing side of it. So to help build a pricing calculator and a letter of engagement facility, because he knew I'd got a spreadsheet and I was doing that way. Did that. And that was 3 years ago, that one little one-off project. And I'm still there, co-founder, shareholder. And we've just crossed the 1,000 paying firms threshold.
Which is incredible, by the way.
Yeah,
there's no easy feat.
No, it's been an interesting 2 years. If you think, like, there was myself, Andy, and Peter. Peter's our developer and fellow co-founder. So this whole product, up until summer this year, was built and maintained by one person at a rate that no one else can seem to come close to of development.
What do you think enabled you to have that rate of development, though? Like, what's your secret sauce there? Because this pace of innovation is so interesting in outcompeting your competition in any software space.
Peter just gets on with it. It's his product. He built it from scratch. He knows it inside out. And he's motivated to get on with it. Like, it is a passion of his. So he always sees it as a reflection of him. So he wants it to be the best it can be. So when we go to him with an idea, like October 2022, I said to him, like, we were just going live by that point. I said to him, we're going to really need to get e-signing in place before January, tax deadline season. Like, the accountants, bookkeepers, they're not going to touch us if we haven't got that in place. From that conversation to public launch was 4 weeks.
Wow. It is incredible to me to see the power of a compelling vision on a software developer and their productivity. I've seen this time and time again. When they know the problem, they love the solution that you're building to that problem, they will move heaven and earth to fix the nagging gaps, let's say, in your product to get people into it and using it. It is an incredible thing to see. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we don't have huge amounts of bureaucracy, and we don't sit there building out huge amounts of detailed plans or anything. We keep it all very high level so that we can move and adapt quickly and easily and pivot if we need to. So yeah, we work as quickly as we can based on our customers' feedback. And a lot of the customer feedback, it's a case of, so we've got a Facebook group, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but Peter hangs out in that group. So he doesn't comment, he doesn't post, but he hangs out in that group. And if someone says something, it'd be really cool if it could do this, the amount of times the next morning I've come into work and he's built it.
Yeah. This is a hack, by the way. This is something I realized in my early career of being a product manager for in some really big SaaS companies, is that if I just brought the developers into a space they could see people encountering problems with the product, they would fix it like so quickly. Stuff that was taking us 6 months was taking like weekends.
Yeah. And like stuff that I would go, oh, that sounds like it's going to be a big job. The only person that's qualified enough to tell you whether something's a big job, small job, large job is that developer. So giving him the autonomy to go, it's going to take a day out of this project and go and do that because it's a quick win. Like the PR side of it, there's no better PR out there than me going. So we do a weekly live session and I host that every week that I'm available. We don't run it if I'm not available because we want our users to have that contact with the co-founder.
Yep.
Every week when I go there, that thing you were talking about 2 days ago in Facebook group and it's a bit of a pain, here's our solution. Problem solved.
And then they feel heard. And this is a key point I want to get into with you today, is that you have the user's voice in mind when you're building this product. So many founders want that desperately. They want their early adopters to say what's wrong, what's the next problem to solve, because it makes your road mapping job quite a lot easier, right? You don't need to guess. But the issue they face, it's a chicken and egg problem. Their communities are deserts. There's no one commenting in there. There's no one interacting other than with really negative things when someone's annoyed. So how did you kickstart that community? Because I'm sure it was tough work in the beginning. What was the seeds of growth that you planted that you are now getting to reap? So
Facebook communities have been quite a thing in the accounting and bookkeeping software space for quite a while now. And business coaches in the industry have them, and they're seen as a bit like lead generating fishing pools, as it were. Great for marketing. So yes, we've got 1,700 people in our Facebook group at the moment. Not all of those are users. Some of them are watching. They're sitting in the sidelines going, we're just keeping an eye. And it's a true litmus test because people ask questions at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night and I respond. And it's a true litmus test of our support, how we listen and how we react. So when I started the Facebook group because I knew we needed to build a community around us where we could share information easily and also deliver support. Like it was me, Andy and Peter at the time. Like, how are we going to cover email tickets and stuff like that? Well, actually, if they're putting them into the Facebook group, if we're not there immediately, someone else might be able to answer that question. So we were kind of broadening our support network in effect. And early adopters, I always find them very conversational. They want to share what they're doing and how they're doing it. They want to hear what others are doing because they want to see if they're missing out on something. So it kind of grew quite easily. And so we started doing our Facebook. We used to go live in the Facebook group every week. We now do it on a Zoom session to keep it more controlled. Plus, Facebook changed some streaming rules, which meant I couldn't use StreamYard. So it was just... And the Facebook live stream was hideous. We tried it once, wouldn't do it again.
Talk about crazy product decisions.
Stupidity. But the only way you can get that community and that interaction is I was in there every day asking questions. I was putting polls in there. I still do every few weeks. I put polls in, like, out of interest, what are you using for this? Or like, so in the early days, we just put a Facebook poll up saying, right, these are all the ideas people have suggested and we've come up with. Vote on all your favourites, and we'll start from the top and we'll work our way down for the roadmap. Yep. So we've got all those. We were doing that and it in turn created activity and stuff. And people now know if they go into that Facebook group, even though we've got a ridiculously quick support response time, they go into the Facebook group, it's probably going to be even quicker. So, like, if someone emails,
I'm assuming you now have champions in that community who are like little ambassadors for Client Engager who love this thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've got them from both the tech support side of things that will, this is how we do it, or this is how you do it, or here's the article from the Help Center, through to just championing us in every Facebook group they're on. Like, if you look at where all of our leads have come from, over half have said personal recommendation, word of mouth.
That is insane. Because people always get slightly embarrassed when I, ask them about where they're getting their lead sources from, their leads from, and the major growth engines of their business. They come to me and they say, "I want to grow my startup bigger." This is a key thing to understand. Where is the business coming from right now? Let's double down on that. And they almost get, they're shy to say a lot of our business comes from word of mouth. I think that is the gold standard of business growth because it means you're doing something that's worth remarking on. This is a great sign.
It's fantastic. So someone that is telling you to use this software, someone that you trust and respect, you respect their expertise. They're saying they're using this software. Well, I'm going to give it a go because I know how successful they are as a bookkeeper or an accountant, blah, blah, blah. But also, it's free. Like, I think we've spent £3,000 in 2 years on marketing. Like,
oh my God.
Outside of website and video created content to be built and stuff. So we've spent £3,000 in 2 years and we're at 1,000 paying firms.
And is that breakdown, because this is interesting to me. I always say to people, you cannot market your way to product market fit, right? There is a moment that first time founders go through. They launch, then they hit that sticky bit just after launch where, we don't really know how to sell it, position it. I don't know whether this was a mistake. And one of the things they do is they thrash around. If they have money, they put £10,000, let's say, behind Facebook ads. And obviously it doesn't work because they don't know how to sell it yet. So that 3,000 that you've spent, is that on paid advertising? Was that event marketing? Like where has that been?
We spent it on a sponsoring a pricing report that was insight from some business coaches that work in the industry who do a survey of all their bookkeepers, and we sponsored that to help push it. We did a webinar on it because it was a topic. We're pushing our pricing tool at the moment, so it made sense to get that to a wider audience.
And I love that because it's generating you useful data. It's genuinely useful to your audience, right? And maybe I'm starting to see a bit of a thread here with how you run Client Engager. It's offering value in multiple ways to people. So it's creating an incredible piece of software, but it's also creating the community. It's getting them insights about the industry, being there, showing up to the community to kickstart it. Do you have any advice for founders who are at the beginning of this journey of creating their community? Now, if you had to create this community again from scratch, let's say Facebook deletes your group, which would be a disaster, but what would you be doing today that you didn't start immediately doing when you first set it up?
I don't think there's anything I'd change in that community space. Like, we're really happy with the growth and stuff. Like, the cheat code for us was that I had a personal brand in the industry. So I was already known for speaking at events. I was known as an early adopter and testing softwares. So I had a bit of, I had a fairly large following. I think I had about 10,000 followers at LinkedIn. So when I posted about stuff, that helped kickstart the momentum. And then others would post about using it, and, it just snowballs from there. So that was our cheat code to word of mouth marketing, was the fact that I had a personal brand and was seen as a trusted expert in the industry already for the tech side. So when I then decided to do my own tool, they were interested in what I was doing because they'd followed my advice on other things in the past. We've also taken a bit of a different direction to some of the softwares in our industry at the moment. So the last 5 years, we've had a lot of softwares telling you how to run your business as an accountant or bookkeeper. And if you're not doing it their way, it's wrong.
Okay.
Whereas we go, look, this is how I do it in my firm. This is how Andy does it in his firm. It might not be right. It might not be wrong. This is just how we do it. This is how we use Engager. You go out there and show us how you use it, because we want to learn from you as well. So
nice. So it's that becomes a very collaborative environment when you do that. Like if I think about in my own industry, Figma, and the way that this has done something similar, of people playing around with the tool, using it for things that was never intended to be used for, and building that kind of community adoption. And eventually, that took over a huge player in the space in Adobe, right? So you're fostering that community at every single level, even through the usage of your product you tell us how you want to use it.
Yeah, that's it. Like, we will, in the early days, everything was built on what Andy and I, how we worked and what we needed in our firm. But as we've grown our user base, we've grown the amount of people we talk to and how they use things, and we listen constantly in that Facebook group. We've got the ability for all of our users to submit any ideas they've got, and then all the other users get to vote on all of those ideas. And when we come to do our next quarter's roadmap planning, we look at, right, what's the most voted for things? What can we fit in to this quarter, and go from there? Like, it's always listening. It's
fascinating to hear you outline that process. The fact you're even planning on a quarterly basis is not immediately obvious to most founders to chunk up their roadmap. Like, they go, hey, here's what we're doing for the next 2 years, which I always say, you probably aren't, because things are going to change, and I hope they change. Did you ever read the book Shape Up by 37 Signals? Have you ever come across anything that they've done? You've almost landed on a very similar process that they have. If you've ever heard of Basecamp, incredible product, and they do these 6-week sprints. It's high level, it's defined by what their customers are demanding, and they are very agile with what's in those 6-week sprints based on the need and what they can fit in. And it seems that you're getting into or you have been operating in a very similar pattern.
Yeah. I mean, we know if we commit to like a 6-month or longer roadmap, people are like us, if Apple tells you there's a new phone coming out in 2 years' time, how much do you really care?
Yeah.
How excited are you really going to be about that? Whereas if I turn around to you and say, in the next 3 months, or we're in September now, by Christmas this is going to be live. Like, actually, that's close enough to be tangible and to be excited by.
Yeah, it feels real. It feels possible, and it sounds as well like you've built a launch cadence up within your business, which keeps the buzz high. Like, I hate products I log into where nothing's changed in 6 months. Like, is this dead?
We launch at times weekly.
Wow.
Like, at times I will go. So I go every Wednesday morning. We have a development meeting. I then go Wednesday night and share that and demonstrate all of those new features to our audience. And some weeks there isn't anything to announce. It's a tips and tricks and Q&A session. Other weeks I'm releasing 5 to 10 different feature updates.
Wow.
So there was no point if we've built it. Why is it sat there doing nothing? Just because we've said it's coming in February. No, let's get this part out. Let's get our excitement and keep the buzz going. So we've said, like, by the end of this year, we want this huge onboarding thing. Well, that's actually made up of loads of little modules. We've already launched a few of them. And actually, for the next few months, there's going to be weekly or fortnightly launches of the next bits to keep that buzz going.
Yep. It's such a nicer way to launch again. And I speak with so many founders who are hesitant to launch things that aren't necessarily perfect or fully complete because they have a huge vision and they're almost embarrassed by the kind of state that something's in right now. But I say just get it out there because the feedback will help you make the end result better. But as you've said, the cadence keeps the buzz alive.
And we always
helps you build a community.
So, like, what's coming out? I've literally come onto this podcast after a meeting with a potential partnership and API integration that we're looking at doing, and they were like, we spoke about the whole thing, but actually we've driven it down to this is the first phase. This is the functionality we want, because there's no point in waiting until June next year to release all of this with 6 months work behind it to find out 90% of it isn't valued by the users. Whereas if we release phase 1 early next year, within a couple of weeks to a month or two, we will know how much interest there is there and if it's worth continuing to phase 2. But also, we will know, we'll get the feedback from phase 1. It's like, right, because if you ask an accountant or bookkeeper, would you like an integration between so and so and so and so? Oh, yes, please. That'd be great. Cool. What would that integration do? Oh, I don't know. So you almost have to spoon feed them. And I think it's the same with any users. You have to spoon feed them of, right, I'm doing an integration. Ooh, that's exciting. Then you do phase 1. So, this is really cool. It's only once you've done phase 1 that they start thinking more about it and they start feeding back saying, we can do this. It'd be really cool if it could do that, that, and that. And that's then phase 2.
Yep.
Whereas if I thought I knew best and held back everything and waited and released it, and then it's a complete flop and I've missed the mark entirely, then that's not going to help my marketing. That's not going to help my word of mouth. That's not looking good for us with our integration partner, who then decides, actually, that one flopped. We're not going to do any further work with you. Like, doing it in phases and small releases makes life so much easier.
It's something that I think about it like I call them innovation mountains as well. There's a weird thing that happens when you go down the path of releasing something because your users can only see so far into the future. They can only see to the next problem. And multiple times in my career when we've released something and we talk to them about, the next stage in the process now, suddenly they're like, oh, and then it should, as you've just said, it should do this and this and this. And you go, they would never have been able to tell us that in the first place. And we would have missed it and spent so much money, time and effort building something, as you say, that no one wants and no one values. And so you are an efficient machine in your launches because you are launching only what you know is valued. So you're wasting very little.
Don't get me wrong. There are times when we come up with an idea where you can't, like, we want to do a mobile app for accountants and bookkeepers to use the tool anywhere. You can't just do a small part of a mobile app. You kind of need to do the majority. So in that case, we've designed everything on Figma and we've had loads of meetings with our users and going, right, this is our thoughts. Could we not be able to do it? Like, could we not do this feature? It's like, well, we hadn't thought of that, but actually now you've fed it back to us. Yes, we could. So even when it's a big build, we then bring in like Figma and do all the product design and then demo that product design in Figma to research groups. Then we go and revamp the product design and then it goes off to be built. We would never build anything without more feedback. And the initial feedback was from mine and Andy's firm and using it day in, day out in our firms.
Yeah, scratching your own itch. I'm so glad you said, like, you know, my background is as a user experience designer, so you're really preaching to the choir here. But it's something I have seen. You would be shocked at some of the bigger companies. What happens as those companies get big is more features get released with absolutely zero customer input. Yeah. It becomes less efficient, less innovative.
In our industry.
Yeah. Or how do you feel about that?
It's worked in the US, so it must work in the UK.
Yeah, no, very different markets, very different user bases.
It's reputationally damaging. It really irritates me. Yeah, so as we're growing, we're starting to get more structure to our organisation. So we've now got Ash in. He started in February. He's our head of product. He designs stuff. He works with Peter and the other developer to deliver everything. I look after growth, so I'm looking after support and sales. But we've also got this role which I fulfill at the moment, and it's called head of community. It's my job to liaise with Ash. Yep. And any product design goes through, it's done by Ash, but I get brought in to review it, and then I go and deliver it to our community for their input in different market research groups. Then I go back to Ash with the updates. But we've deliberately put the head of community as a position on our organization chart because they have to sit in every product and development meeting and champion the voice of our user.
And it's such a, like, now that you have this community going, like, it is something that you don't want to neglect because it is a cheat code for growth, right? And I want to talk to you kind of a little bit here about, you know, you've got to 1,000 companies that are using your product. I'd love to understand a little bit more about what your plans are for, like, getting to that 10,000 mark. What are the playbooks that you have talked about as a founding team? What are you doubling down on? What do you think changes from that growth from 0 to 1,000 to 1,000 to 10,000? Specifically, let's start at what are you doubling down on to get to that next number?
I know customer service. I know support inside out. Last month, our support average response time was 6 minutes to an email.
Wow.
Like, our target's 2 hours. That's what our promise is to our users, but it's not been above 25 minutes since January. Like, I monitor that constantly. Now, I'm the head of growth, so technically sales is now my remit. But as a founder, you need to be self-aware enough of what your strengths and weaknesses are. Yes, I've got it to 1,000 paying firms. However, we've built that on word of mouth, personal brand, reputation, excitement of a new product. Beyond that, I'm out of my depth for sales. So we've now, as of a week on Monday from recording this, we've got a new head of sales starting. And he's the best in the business. Like, we weren't planning on having a head of sales or a sales team at all until late next year. But when your number one competitor, head of sales person, quits and says they're looking for work, and you know that person took that company from around 750 firms to 5,000 or 6,000 firms, and then it got acquired, you know that's the person you need to come and take you from your 1,000 upwards. Because he's done it. He's experienced that. I haven't. We're now getting into the point where word of mouth is still strong, but we are starting to see a decline in that word of mouth leads generation. We now need a proper sales system, a proper process. We need an experienced salesperson. And I'm not too big-headed to know that sales is not my forte and I need to go and get someone that's better at that job. But
that's a hard thing to know, Johann, right? There's something called the founder's dilemma, which is the people who get ideas off of the ground are often not the same people you want in charge of the company to really scale it, right? And so many founders kill their own companies because they don't know when to do exactly what you've done there is say, that's not my zone of genius. That's not what I love doing or have and I think the experience doing thing is a big piece. And stepping back, it is very rare the founder that that rides that wave like perfectly. So I think it's admirable that you're doing. Like, what started? I guess, what is the mindset behind that? Like, have you always done things like that? Is this something you've learned through painful business lessons? What's taught you that lesson?
I've always been quite self-aware of my strengths and weaknesses. I mean, when you go through school as someone with dyslexia, before they've really come up with the term dyslexia, you're made acutely aware where your weaknesses are. So I've always been aware of my weaknesses and how I can turn them into my strengths. But leadership and management is also a huge, like, I'm more qualified in that than I am in accounting and bookkeeping. But because of that, you spend a lot of time looking at strengths and weaknesses of others, and it only makes sense in my mind that you do the same of yourself. So in my accounting firm, I have got payroll, tax, bookkeeping, and accounting specialists that will run circles around me. Yep. I mean, I'm banned from pretty much doing any client work. The only thing I'm allowed to go and do without messing up is client meetings and talk commercial concepts. And, you know, I can sit and analyze a set of numbers and a chart and work out what's causing the impact. But I've always been very aware of strengths and weaknesses of my own and those around me. So like, I can sit and say, I've got a problem in my sales charts. If I don't have the answer, I will find someone that does. But I can spot the problem before it becomes a problem.
It's an incredible skill that you start to. I think business forces you to develop this skill, and every founder, I think, has to encounter this glass ceiling that they hit, where you have to go from what do I need to do to who do I need to do that so that this can continue to scale. Do you have any other mental models that you use time and again in business when you see, you know, a recurring problem? You think, oh, it's one of those, or you know, ideas that you have learned from other founders, you know, coaching, whatever it is, that you just think it's one of the most powerful things I've ever learned, and it has served you well again and again? What are your favorite mental models?
Just never being afraid to ask. If you're not sure, go and ask your users. Like, go and ask the people that are going to use it, or work out the problem and find someone that can give you the solution. Like, there's nothing wrong with you not knowing the answer. Like, my default answer, whenever anyone asks me anything in my accounting firm that I'm not sure of, is that I'm not sure, but I will find out for you. I'll come back to you tomorrow with the answer.
Yeah.
Now,
being brave enough to say you don't know.
I'll Google it. Or I'll go and ask one of my team members or whatever it is. But having the confidence in yourself to go, you know what? What's the worst that's going to happen when I say I don't know?
Yeah.
Nothing. As long as I go, I don't know, but I know where the answer is, I'll go and get it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
I encourage my team to do the same, and it's difficult, right? Like, I can do it as the founder because I know I'm not going to get fired, right?
Yeah.
Not firing myself anytime soon. But this is something that I try to hire for, is people who have the mindset of being able to say, I don't know, but I have one big faith in life, which is I know how to find out the answers. I know how to Google. I know how to watch the tutorial on YouTube or ask people. I think it's fun. And if you watch really good software developers, what fascinated me working in those development environments is just how much they spend Googling the answer to the coding challenges that they have. They don't have all the answers, but they are bloody great at finding them out.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the founders, especially in the accounting and bookkeeping space, their biggest issue is they can't get past their own ego. Like, they feel like they should know everything, and to make sure that they do know everything, they dictate that it's their way or no way. And if you're not doing it their way, it's wrong. It's like, well, there's multiple ways to solve a problem. I try and find the most efficient way to do it because I'm a huge fan of effective ways of working and saving time, because extraordinarily lazy in that regard. But I also, I'm aware enough of what my strengths and weaknesses are to be able to go, that's not my forte. Like, if we decided to change our structure and that someone asked me to go and look after the development team, I'll just go, no chance. Because I haven't got a clue what they're talking about. If they start talking about code and stuff, you may as well speak to me in Chinese. I've got no chance of understanding it whatsoever.
Yeah.
This person in the team is better suited to do that. That's why Ash is looking after product. It's why he talks so much to development, because, I mean, I can't even use Figma. Like, our process at the moment is I take screenshots of Engager, I put them into Freeform or Apple Notes, I get my Apple Pencil out, and I graffiti all over it and scribble everywhere. I send that to Ash. He puts it into Figma. He puts a few other tweaks on it from his end, and then he passes it on to Peter to be built. Like,
which is a nice lean, like, that's all you need.
Yeah.
It's you're communicating an idea, the idea is refined, fed back on, then it gets to the most expensive part, which is developing the solution. It's interesting to me, though, even you've said, like, you know, coming up to 3 years and more, you know, you were working on this before it launched, that you're still not technical. And a lot of we work primarily with non-technical founders here at Minimal Viable Launch, and they have a big guilt around this. Some of them start to learn to develop themselves, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I don't think it's a necessary thing either. How do you handle this, you know, working in a software company? Do you feel the need to become more technical? Do you think it would have helped you if you were more technical?
No, because I don't think the developer could have sold the product. So I know their strengths and I know my strengths. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. It was only about a year ago that I first discovered developer tools in Google Chrome, and that you can scroll through and you can see the errors. You screenshot that and you send it to Peter. It takes Peter 10, 15 minutes of having to get into a call with a client to find out what the problem is.
Yeah.
So I am learning aspects that make Peter's life easier, because I'm giving him more detailed reports into the problems that we find. But I don't see any need to know the code. Like, you know, I don't see the need to know what a lawyer is and isn't doing if they're doing it right or wrong. Like, that's their job. I trust them to do their job.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know why we've written our data protection policy the way we have, because I got a GDPR specialist to do that. That's their job. I trust that they're doing their job properly. In the same way, the builder doesn't need to know how I created a set of accounts, because he trusts me, he pays me to do the job. And in the same way, I would never ask him, how is he going to build this house? I trust him to build the house and follow all the modern compliance requirements.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because actually you seem to have been someone in your life that has recognized the leverage specialisms and other people's interest zones of genius has given you, and you've been able to formulate those into teams that do incredible things. But I think there are so many founders that try to exist in the space of wearing all of the hats all of the time for too long.
The founders aren't a technical expert. The founder's role, ultimately, I mean, if a founder is a technical expert, then he's going to need potentially people more senior to him to run other aspects of the business. If you're a founder and you're at the top of the organization chart, you don't need to be a technical expert on all of it. You just need to make sure you've recruited the right people and that you're leading them and problem solving for them as they go. Like that's the role of the founder, is establish the culture, lead and live the culture, and grow a team around you that can deliver the product, grow the product, sell the product, whilst living within the culture that you are setting and dictating.
It's a really interesting turn of phrase you've used there then. Lead and live the culture. But I've struggled with business culture for a long time, because it always used to make me laugh in the place I work. We put the values on the wall, and those values were not reflected in what happens behind, like when shit gets real. That's not what the values of the business. But talk to me a little bit more, Ben, then about leading and living the culture, setting it, leading it, and living it. What does that mean to you, and why is that important?
So, as I said, leadership and management is the bit I love in life. So while other accountants and bookkeepers are reading up on the latest tax guidance, I'm sat listening to Simon Sinek and other great thought leaders like that. Ultimately, like, my wife works for the NHS. Every wall you walk past, every door you open, there's values, posters, and mission statements, and all of this. Mm-hmm. And the working environment is absolutely, utterly toxic. Mm. Well, how can that be if we've got all these posters? It's because no one truly believes or lives by the things that they've got on these posters. Mm-hmm. So I believe the success for Engager is fantastic support and listening to our users. So if I'm not in that Facebook group answering those questions, if I'm not sat doing support tickets myself, which that's not technical, I can do that. I can refer to the people to the right part of the help guide and stuff. If I'm not doing that weekly live session that I do with our users, then who will? Mm. Like if I don't demonstrate in everything I do that our users are our focus, and taking their feedback on board and documenting it and passing it on through the team, and if I don't sit championing the user's voice in our meetings, who will? Yeah, it will just be a poster with no one truly doing it.
So it is the acting of the value that cements it into the culture.
Yeah. It's like believing that everyone should run everywhere, but you only ever walk.
Yeah. A bit of a paradox of what you're saying and your actions. They don't line up.
Exactly.
I love that. And what do you, like, so many leaders, so many founders talk about the importance for culture. And I don't know who said this, if it's Simon Sinek or someone else, but they say culture eats strategy for breakfast, I believe is the saying, right? You create the culture that actually executes, that cares about the customer, that does these things. It just is so much more effective. Like, why do you place so much importance on culture? Like, yes, you listen to the users and we know how that's important to your business growth, but it is an obsession with so many leaders. What is it about culture that is so important to get right?
Because I've seen it where I've signed up to softwares where the founders are there and they're still delivering the culture at that point that you're buying into. Like, we're not buying the tool just because it's a good tool. We're buying the tool because we like the people behind the tool. We buy from people. People buy from people. We always have done. Until you use Amazon. But, I mean, even then, you're kind of buying from Jeff, aren't you? So, yeah, people buy from people. So when I choose softwares for my accounting firm, some of the things I look at are, what are their staff like to deal with? Are they responsive? Do their staff hang around? Because if you're getting a different account manager every month or two, that tells me there's some problems in that company. No one's sticking around. Well, if no one's sticking around, who do I build my loyalty with? Like, who's my go-to person at that company to go and help me solve a problem when a problem comes up? And then I've seen those founders get kind of complacent about culture and start disappearing from the office and not turning up for days on end. And, their staff talk about it. And it all becomes a bit resentful. And then it gets sold to a bigwig organisation who's just got a board of directors who bark instructions. And then you see that software hemorrhage all the good staff. And you kind of just go, well, I don't want that to happen. Because all that results in is declining users, declining sales, increasing churn. Like, it all goes there's only one direction it goes, and that's downhill.
Yeah.
So
and it's hard to rescue.
Oh, it's impossible to rescue. Like you've got to be a real miracle worker to rescue that, because to bring someone in, you've got to change the whole culture of the organization. That takes time.
Yeah.
Then you've got to change. Once that's finally taken place, then it trickles down to your customers, which takes even more time. If you're already going downhill, you haven't got the time. Time is the last thing you've got. So it's really unlikely you're going to turn it around.
It's fascinating you say, because I've been through a couple of they call them mergers, but acquisitions, right? Where the culture has shifted in a business rapidly through the removal of key people of influence within the organization. That you see the rot set in, and one example, I won't say the company name, but the one example that just sits rife in my mind is a support organization that they should have taken a hatchet to and just gutted it, because to its core there had been a culture set in that was disillusioned with the product, disillusioned with their ability to solve customer problems, and talked negatively about every customer that they interacted with. And we never solved that. And if I go and look at the reviews for that company right now, I know that the chief complaints are going to be support. And it's so hard to fix.
Yeah, I mean, we use Trustpilot at Engager. We've got 1 3-star review out of 49 5-stars, which really bugs me, because we're down at 4.8. And that 1 3-star review complained that we were using our customers for ideas to build the product. It's like, right, okay, I'm sorry I asked for your feedback.
That needs to be on your website, by the way. I love a review like that.
Yeah.
Could you thank you, just validated what we're doing.
But then I was looking at some of the other, we compare ourselves to everyone else out there in the space. And there's one tool on there with 29 1-star reviews.
Oh my.
And it's like, you've got to be particularly bad for someone to go to that much effort.
Yeah. How many people are just mildly annoyed? Yeah.
And every single one was support.
It's such an important point to get right in your product. The founders that we're designing software with, I talk to them about this all the time, is that you might think that is a small bug. The fix is easy, and in the grand scheme of things, it's one of your customers out of many thousands. But in the moment that they raise that support ticket, that is the biggest issue, especially if you are doing the real job of a software founder, solving a critical problem so that they love the product because it does something significant in their life. When it breaks, it's a big problem in their life. You better treat it like that.
Yeah.
And many companies get that wrong.
It baffles me. So a lot of people say, well, how can you have such great support? Because we don't actually have inbound phone calls. We all deal with just emails, because we want to ticket everything. We want to document everything so we can spot the patterns. So we deal with emails and Facebook. And it's now got to the point where it's a bit of a running joke that, someone's working late and they ask a question in Facebook, Johann's probably going to answer. And everyone's like, oh, Johann never sleeps. It's like, well, if I've got my mobile phone in my hand and Facebook gives me a notification, answering that is no different to replying to a text message, in my mind. So if someone puts a question on at 11 o'clock on Sunday night and I answer, it's not because I'm sat there waiting for it. It's because it's convenient to me. But employees won't ever do that. And I'd never expect them to. I'd never ask them to. Like 9 till 5, 4-day weeks, whatever you're doing, you respect their personal time and their work time. But as the founder, there's no skin off my nose to sit there and do that. And when one of the co-founders is doing that, it builds so much rapport, not just with that person, but with everyone on that Facebook group that sees that post and sees the time of that response.
It is a subtle... I'm always looking for these unfair advantages that you can build into your product, right? Because entering the software space is a competitive game, and if you get a hardcore competitor that comes into that space, it can be flipped on its head. The market can be flipped on its head very, very quickly. And I think you've got two that I absolutely love. Like, get very close to what the customer wants. It makes you so efficient. It makes you so lean in your development effort that you move so fast. You've done that. But the other one, the one that I think is much less obvious, and there are a few companies I've got in my mind where I know the founder is in the Discord. The founder does live streams with the product, or in your case, is in the Facebook community. It makes a statement in the hardcore user group's mind, who are in those groups with them, that these people care, and it builds trust, it builds engagement. Like, knowing that I can message the founder of a product that is business critical for me gives me so much peace of mind to just use this software and not even think about replacing it. It is a cheat code, but it just requires your time and effort.
And that's also why we don't do phone calls. So we know one of our competitors was fantastic for always answering the phone. My problem is that's not an effective way of working. Because I could be chatting to 4 different people on the live chat on the website, responding to emails and dealing with Facebook all at the same time. If I'm on the phone, I can't do any of that other stuff. So I either serve one customer at a time, or I serve multiple customers at a time.
Which is the game you should be playing, right? Trading time to solve value, to provide value at scale to multiple people at once. Exactly.
And if I can make that public, then that doesn't just buy me kudos with the person I've helped, it's with everybody. So I love questions in the Facebook group, because 9 out of 10 times I'm there within 2 minutes responding. And they're like, wow. And everyone else is like, wow. But then all of our email stats on our live chat, I publish them on the 1st of every month. So I say, right, guys, this month, I don't just put this in the Facebook group, I put it on all of our social channels, saying, right, this month we had this amount of emails. This was the average first response time, like 6 minutes last month. This is how many of our live chats were solved by AI. Direct them to the right help center. This is how many live chats were dealt with by us and how quickly. It's technically, they aren't seen by anybody, our response time in emails. So we have to find other ways of shouting about it to buy trust from our users and potential users, because they just look at that and go, okay, sold. Like, you've taken a screenshot of the diagnostic tool. We can't
You're a very open company, right? It sounds like you're a very... And it's interesting because, it's stats on your email answering times, which demonstrates that you have a commitment to customer service, but it creates community engagement. It's marketing. Yeah. It's like so many birds with one stone. But there's so many companies I know that would really shy away from sharing stats like that, and they want to hide everything.
Yeah, and I suppose it's just another example of me being lazy and trying to do as much with one action as possible. And we're very honest with our users, and because if someone turns around to me and says, "Oh, I really want this built, I want this feature," it's like, cool, put it on the ideas list, and if it's well voted for, we will build it. And when they come back and say, "Oh, you've not built this yet," it's like, yeah, but it's had 5 votes on the poll. This thing's got 60. That's what we're working on. Yeah. I'm quite happy to be almost direct. Yeah. And go, so when someone turns around and says, well, that's not how we work, it's like, Engager's not going to work for everybody. We know 50.3% of everyone that tries Engager signs up. Now, compared to most, that's a very good figure. Yeah. But that means 49.7 of you aren't going to sign up, and it's not going to work for you. But what I do know is, you're doing this, I can go and speak to 1,000 firms, none of them do it this way. This is how they do it. It's up to you whether you change your process to suit the software, or just go and find a different software that works how you work.
And that's such
Not
a
many
key
will have that
thing.
conversation.
But so many founders shy away from that point of your product isn't for everyone. Because if it is, it's kind of, your product has to fade into the background, right? To have serious scale like that, it kind of has to be a very, very flexible product that lets you do anything you want in any way you want, which either causes it to have a huge barrier to entry and loads of support costs, or you become platforms like Facebook where, it's generalized usage and it's all user-driven content. For B2B stuff, that's hard to do. Your ability to articulate and say it's for people who do things in this way makes your product so much more resonant with those that it is doing the thing for, that they love it and it becomes sticky. Yeah. You could double the prices and they would hate you for it, but they would still pay it. Like Figma, if you triple the price of it, I'd be annoyed, right? Yeah. But I would still pay this all day long.
You'll rant about it on LinkedIn, but you're still going to pay it because there's nothing else like it.
Yeah, when Adobe bought Figma, it was one of the wildest things I ever saw. There was an outpouring of grief.
Yep.
In all of this, everyone was like, "Oh no, like this thing is going to go down the pan now." And I thought, "Wow, what a product endorsement for Figma is that people are sad that another company bought it."
Yeah, and we see that in the accounting space a lot. So, like, one of our biggest obstacles we've had in the accounting space is that in the last 5 years, there's been a lot of acquisitions by venture capital, etc. Now, we've bootstrapped everything. The only investment we've got is the subscriptions we get every month. That's our investment. So our users are our investors in our mind. But a lot of venture capitalists have come in and brought up softwares. A lot of the big names have brought up softwares. And all the users go, "Oh, God, I'm going to have to start looking again." Because they know what's going to happen. But that in turn, that you go, "Oh, well, Johann, that's your opportunity to go, come and look at us, we're bootstrapped, blah, blah, blah." And it does help us generate more interest. So also, it's got a huge obstacle of how long until you guys sell up.
Well, what is your plans there, Johann, right? Because this exit strategy piece is interesting because I think it changes the game you're playing. And so many founders don't know what game they're playing. Have you guys discussed what
many times?
Are you riding this into the sunset and being are you a base camp going absolutely insane with the size and always being bootstrapped? What do you guys want to do?
So we've no intention of going for investment. We're going to bootstrap it. It's funny, isn't it? How if you run a business like a business, not like a software company, but if you actually run a business like a business where your local cafe doesn't get investment to build a huge team and start from zero with a huge team,
giving out free coffees all across the city to get market share.
They do the work themselves. They get the sales in. Right, I can get someone in to make the coffees. Yeah. Okay, we've got more sales. I can get someone to serve those coffees out now. I've got someone else. I've got more money in. Right, I can now go and get a chef to cook some food. Blah. Like it snowballs. It scales. That's how we've run it. We've not gone out and got millions of pounds for an idea. Got a huge development team, huge marketing team, huge sales team, and then realised a few years later, oh crap, I'm going to have to pay them back now. And I've not got the sales coming in. I've not got the revenues coming in. I've spent all the money. All right, we're going to up all of our prices and make everyone redundant.
Yep.
None of that goes well.
No.
And then they get sold or they close down. So we don't want any of that hassle. We've got 3 co-founders, and myself and the developer are still very young. Like, he's younger than me. I'm 37 in a couple of months. Andy, my other co-founder, he's looking at retirement options. Like, he's clocked 50 this year. He wants out in 5 years' time. So we need to look at his options for that. But everyone in the accounting and bookkeeping space, because all we've seen is venture capitalists coming in and buying up everything and investing loads of money, or big companies selling in, they just blinker to what other opportunities are out there. So, like, we've already spoken about, we'll look at management buyouts. Happens in the rest of the world all the time.
Yep.
Our coolest idea at the moment, in my mind, is a co-op.
Cool.
We will sell our shares. So if Andy wants to sell his shares, myself and Ash or Peter might want to buy more shares. So that'd be a partial management buyout. But actually, let's sell those shares to our users. How sticky will they be then? Even
that
if it's
is
only
such an interesting idea.
It gets valued at millions of pounds, and someone only buys £100 worth of shares. They still get a vote.
Yeah,
they might not,
and you can tie the shares to those votes, as you say.
Yeah.
That is a seriously, like I've had a few conversations with people in the crypto space over the last few years around, we were talking about building this decentralized autonomous organization to develop software companies and spin them out. And you get, depending on what you put in, you kind of start to earn ownership of the company. I absolutely love that idea. I suppose the problem will be, I have an article which I'm working on, which is called "Great Product is Not Built in a Democracy." Like, because you guys are still, even if, let's say someone goes on a campaign and raises thousands of votes for a feature on your feature board that is a complete anathema to the idea of client engager, you will take that off the board, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
It's like, have you had a situation like that?
If we went to a co-op style, like, we would limit the amount of shares an individual could buy. So there's no big voters, but also we would maintain the controlling stake between us.
Okay. Yeah.
And to be fair to our users, I mean, this is the risk, isn't it? We've got all of our ideas list. It's very public. Anyone can vote on it. That's a user. To be fair to them, they haven't put anything stupid forward yet.
Okay.
However, every idea goes onto the system that goes in there, goes through moderation first.
Okay, yeah.
It comes in, I assess it, I speak to Peter and Ash. Is it technically feasible? Yes or no? Yes, right. Is it in line with our ethos and our direction? Yes, right. Fine. On the odd occasion, you get one in that goes, and it's like, no, we're not doing that because we don't agree as a company with that. We're very open and honest again, saying, thanks for voting, for putting this forward. We're not putting it to the vote for the following reasons. So that is very, very rare. And I mean, we've got over 170 items on our list to build.
Yeah, you've got a real backlog then.
Yeah, we're going to be busy for quite a while.
Which is good though, right? Because you don't want to slow down the development. That's how products die.
Exactly. Like 170 different ideas to either the upgrades to current features or brand new features. Now, some of those ideas, so like next week, we're making an announcement of a new partnership, which will transform how our users can generate invoices, collect payments, and do credit control.
Okay.
Now that actually wipes out 3 different ideas that have been voted for, because actually they're direct competitors to this partnership, but they only do one aspect of it. Right. Whereas we've got this partnership who's got us really good terms for our users and covers all 3 aspects. So it's a quicker build. I build once to them, or I build out 3 times to these 3 software providers.
Yep.
And next week when we announce that, on Wednesday when we announce it on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I've already crafted my messages. So when I close an idea down, everyone that's voted for it automatically gets an email saying it's been closed down. And I've already crafted my message.
You're a very communicative company. You guys are very much, you are in a dialogue consistently with your users at multiple levels.
Yeah. Like someone puts an idea in, or if you vote on an idea, our system will email them when we move that from an idea to planned. And they get excited because their idea has been taken into consideration and it's been actioned. Then they get an email when we move it into testing. And they're like, oh, it's coming, it's in a week's time, because we've got a very strict 7 to 10 day testing window, and then it goes public. And then we move it to completed. And they all get an email saying that thing you voted for, that idea of yours has been completed. And that's all fully automated. I just
and they feel
Kanban.
What product are you using to manage this?
Sleek Plan.
Sleek Plan. Okay.
Sleekplan.app. It's fantastic. It's stupidly cheap. Like, the guy who's created it needs to speak to a consultant about price.
It sounds like one of those like really nice micro SaaS products where someone's just had a problem themselves and just gone, I'm creating this and I'm doing it as a side hustle. Like, I love those products.
NPS scores, it collects feedback, it does the ideas list, it's got the roadmap on it.
Oh, that's
an
what you
incredible
need.
bit of kit. And it's dirt cheap. Like 14 quid a month, the basic package, I think.
Yeah, that it's such a, if you're going to get one of these systems working, having that ability to include people, make them feel included in the creation of your software. Again, this is another unfair advantage I love to look for, which is you show early concepts, you get them to feedback, you listen to it, and they feel like this thing is theirs. It's not like they really start to take ownership of it, and it makes your product stickier. And it's also a hack, by the way, that in every SaaS company I've ever worked in, the sales team have loved me, or the customer care team have loved me, because any angry customer we've had, I'm like, throw me in with them, get me on a call, because I will listen to their problems, I will design solutions to them, and oh look, they haven't got rid of their contract, because they feel listened to and heard, which is what most people want.
Exactly. And if you can automate that with things like Sleek Plan, then even better. But also, like, that's another great thing that I do on these weekly lives. So every Wednesday night at 7:30, I do my hour-long weekly live. 9 out of 10 times, I've got 10 minutes of constructed, planned content, which is the roadmap, the updates for this week.
Yep.
Everything after that is normally just conversational based on the comments, the questions coming in, blah, blah, blah. And when someone says, have you got an update on this? You were looking at this. I can go, you know what, guys? Actually, I have. Still not got an ETA for you, but we were thinking of doing X, Y, and Z. Would that work for you?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, so we get 30 to 40 people every week turn up to that. And then that recording goes onto our help center and it gets watched a couple of hundred times. So more and more people are turning up to the live session because they know, if I watch the recording, I can't chip in. If I'm there, I can chip in when he's asking questions like that.
I love that you're doing this in such a clever way at all levels, and it kills so many birds with one stone. And it speaks to your, I always talk to people about the founder's superpowers, right? Every founder has different ways of working that they are uniquely good at. Like, some people can go pull on huge accounts that other people just wouldn't be able to do. They should lean into that. You found your superpower, which is this working in efficient ways, and you've actually got this running as a thread through your customer engagement, your growth strategy with your community, which I love. I suppose, Johann, it's been absolutely incredible speaking with you here today. I have one final question for you before we round up, which is coming back to this idea of openness. One of the things that founders who may be sitting here watching this episode today, they are thinking about launching something. They've seen a gap in the market. They're getting excited about it. They're making some moves towards it. And one of my frustrations is a refusal to share the idea, because they think someone's going to steal it. Someone is going to do it before me. You know, they want to sign NDAs. They want to do all of this stuff that for me, I just think I've seen this idea 20 times. No one executed on it. So I always encourage them to be open. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Do you encourage people to share their ideas early before they build software? Do you think actually there's times where being too open is a bad thing? Where do you land on that? It
depends what your industry is. So if you're in the accounting and bookkeeping software space, it's like, we're exceptionally open, and everyone says, oh, you're not worried about so-and-so or so-and-so stealing that and copying you. It's like, you know what? They can. Like, one of our competitors has just launched a disengagement letter feature. No one's ever had one of those apart from us. So we know where it's come from.
Yeah.
However, that feature has been available in our product for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It's taken them 2.5 years to build a PDF generator, generated template letter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried because they can start having weekly live sessions. I can guarantee you the founders won't be on them because the founders all sold up years ago. So you're just going to get some employee on there who won't have all the answers and won't be able to, you won't feel like your feedback's being taken genuinely. They've got huge development teams compared to ours, but actually that's where they can't be nimble. They've got roadmaps planned from 6 years ago they're still working on, and there's no ability to drop something in and just, I saw this on the Facebook group, I'm just going to build this. There's too much bureaucracy for that.
Mm.
So in my industry, I know there's little to no risk by being so open and transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, technically, any of our competitors could easily see a social media post of ours, which has got the link to our roadmap and our ideas list on, and go farm it. That's all I care.
Yeah.
But I know their rate of development. It's not a threat. Now, if you're in an industry where actually this competitor is quick, nimble, responsive, then don't be as open as we are.
Mm.
But it's about knowing your industry and actually challenging yourself. It's like, if you say, they're really quick to develop, it's like, are they really? Evidence that. Evidence to me that they are that quick to develop, because I pretty much guarantee you they're not. They've got too much bureaucracy, funding choices, too much hierarchy. It's not going to happen.
This is exactly it's an Elon Musk quote, which is just all that matters is the pace of innovation. And I have worked at some of the biggest SaaS companies in the UK. I have worked with really fast growing startups. I've worked with startups that don't grow very fast at all. And the thing that I see is those who have ideas and execute on them, who are open about those ideas, who share them freely, like they build a momentum of execution. And then there's everyone else that looks at what they do. And it's like, as you say, you get copied. Great. That means you did something worth copying most of the time. Pray that your competitors are just looking at you and copying you, because you're already working 3 to 6 months out at the source of truth, which is your users, your customers. That's where the innovation is.
And a lot of the time, like we're doing a document editor and proposal tool. That's been done a million times over. Mm-hmm. Has it been done to the way we're doing it? No. We're giving as much customization ability in this document editor designer thing that we could. We basically rebuilt part of Canva for the sake of this.
Awesome. I saw the screenshots of this today, actually, I think.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. But so everyone else has got the ability to personalize a template, yes. But most of them are what we had up until this week, which was choose your company colors and your logo, and that's it. We're taking that to another level. So even we are, in theory, copying, but we're only copying to make it better, and we're building on what's already there. So if someone comes along and copies what we've done and builds on it to makes it better, then good for them, because they've had the innovation to do it.
That is and I always say this in our design sprint workshops, where we're coming up with a big vision for a new piece of feature of functionality. There is a section in there where you go and steal ideas, and it is very hard to be completely original. And usually when you are, you're doing something terrible, right? Complete originality is rarely good, but it's the recombination of ideas into your specific context that is evolving. Yeah, exactly. It's the evolution. Johann, I could speak to you for another hour. I think we're going to have you back on at a future date to share some of this wisdom. When you get to 2,000, once you've doubled your user base again, which I'm sure will start happening faster and faster and faster as well. Do you have any parting comments for any of the founders who are out there listening to this that you want to share?
Just stop thinking about it and start doing it. Like, if we kept thinking about half the stuff we keep thinking about and we didn't just do it, like if Peter didn't just see an idea, someone would say, this is really irritating me, or this didn't work for me, or it'd be good if it could work like this. And if he didn't just go, I'll just go and do that, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yep.
Like, listen to your users. They are more qualified to tell you what they need than you are ever to. Get past your own ego. Do not assume you know best, because you don't. Listen to your users and react to it. Like, all of our competitors say they listen to our users.
Mm-hmm.
They've got no public transparency of their roadmaps. There's no ideas list anywhere. And their releases are extremely slow. So if you're saying you're going to listen and you're going to action, get on with it. Do it quickly.
Walk the walks. Live, breathe, live and breathe the culture.
Exactly.
I love that. Johann, thank you so much for being so willing to share openly and spend the time. It really helps founders to hear stories of other founders who have been there, have executed successfully, and hopefully give them the belief and courage to get moving forward themselves. So we will speak to you again soon, I am sure.
Thank you very much.